This episode of It's All Greek to Me is brought to you by our premium corporate partner, Levendus Lawyers. On today's episode of It's All Greek to Me, we're meeting a local guy that has done exceptionally well on the international stage. He's part Bulgarian, part Italian. The best part is he loves halva. Let's go meet him.
Hey, how you going?
Paul, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good.
You well?
Yeah,
Good to see you, man. Better known as Paolo Sebastian, I know Paul from his regular visits to my patisserie, Galimnos Pastries, back in the day. You are probably familiar with his beautiful designs, but what you might not know is his family migrant story.
My grandfather fled Bulgaria during the war. My grandfather fled with a number of boys from Bulgaria, and they travelled through Italy together and then eventually ended up in Australia. He met my grandmother here in Australia and they were married here. And then the generations have kind of kept in touch. And my mum's side of the family is from Italy. So my mum's mum is from Calabria and my nonno's from Sicily. They met and got married in Italy, and they came over. First, nonno came over to work and set up the family home, and then once it was all set up and ready, nonna and their firstborn came over. They eventually had 3 more children when they moved here. And I think what I love about the Bulgarian side of the family is because being Orthodox, there's a lot of traditions around Easter. So we try and, uphold the traditions like the eggs and a lot of the cooking, all the different pastries and things that go along with that. And, for Christmas, my mum's side of the family will make lasagna and all the pastas and all of that side of things. So there's a lot kind of revolving around food in my family. They weren't huge on sweets, which is interesting because I love desserts. And I think my dad's mum, so my Bulgarian grandmother, she was a real sweet tooth.
All right, Paul, here we are. We're about to do this world-famous Bulgarian halva that you're talking about. The halva that you guys copied from us.
Oh,
the Greeks, is that right?
Sure.
No, mate.
This one's better. It's a bit sweeter because it's Bulgarian.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a little bit nicer.
Well, I'll tell you when we taste it a bit later on. You know what? I can't wait to try it. It's just a slight variance. Yours has got the butter in it, which will make it a beautiful texture. Now, we're melting this up, mate.
Yep, melting it up, and then we're going to add in the semolina to brown it.
Perfect. Keep stirring it.
So basically, we're just going to try and make this nice and golden.
And then we'll add the syrup, right?
Yeah.
Making of the syrup is simple. We've used caster sugar, some fresh cinnamon sticks, and topped with boiling water, which we stir until the sugar dissolves. A squeeze of lemon, and we're all done. Your dad used to do this for you growing up, and which he got the recipe off of his mum.
Yeah, so we've got my grandmother's cookbook, and Dad he's done a really great job of just trying to upkeep the traditions and do a lot of the recipes that she used to make. So the thing about this dish that I have found from cooking it is it just takes time. There's a lot of stirring, and you've got to be patient with it, and you've just got to keep on it.
The thing is, what you just said then is true. The patience, guys, if you're doing this at home, which you have to because it's easy, be patient, because if you brown it, it makes a whole huge difference in the flavour. Now, what we're going to do, pouring the syrup in, stir that in, and then this will thicken. Perfect, man.
Yeah, it's already starting to thicken up.
Perfect. Look at that. If you drag through, look at that, the line that it's leaving. Bravo de Paul. It almost looks as good as mine. Almost. Actually, what's your dad's name? Iggy. It's a good recipe, man. Bravo. I can smell it. The best part about this recipe here is also, you think about our grandparents and people that migrated over and stuff. They didn't have a lot of money. They worked really hard for the money that they had to be able to make the family survive. They came over for a better life. you know, so they worked hard. The beauty of this dessert is the cost is so minimal, and it is the ultimate comfort food for the whole family. Put it in there, mate. That's the way.
As a kid, this was my favourite thing to do, is just play. It was like Play-Doh.
Awesome. Now, if you put that out in a tray, that'll set within half an hour, and you can actually cut slices in diamond shapes. You can sprinkle cinnamon over the top. What we're going to do right here is put a bit of almond over the top.
There you go.
Mate, look at that. We've got a few cinnamon sticks as well. Do you want? No,
Yeah, put them on too.
All right.
It's all about presentation.
Yeah. That's the way. Look at that.
Oh, beautiful.
Perfect. We have our halva. Now, you got to try Paul's grandmother's. Well, how do you say grandmother in Bulgarian?
Baba.
Baba. So you got to try Paul's Baba's halva, which his dad has been trying to do and does it like a master chef. And now Paul's doing it and he's teaching us. You got to try it at home.
Like it?
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks for having me.
Well done. Champion. Champion.
The Italian side of me, I think, really comes out in my work, and I was very fortunate to study in Milan. And the Bulgarian side of things, like I've done multiple collections that have been inspired by that Eastern European sensibility. And so a lot of my grandmother's old embroideries and little souvenirs and knickknacks that we had around the house, I took as inspiration and turned them into embroideries for coats and for dresses. Having lived in Milan and leaving my support network here and my family and my friends, it kind of really made me think about how my grandparents did that, because they left their families knowing that they'd probably never see them again. They didn't have Skype, they didn't have FaceTime or anything back then, so that really kind of hit me hard when I went over there, because it made me think a lot about what they had to go through when they came to Australia. So I have a great amount of respect for them.
Paul's dad is Bulgarian. Now, these guys love bean soup, traditional bean and vegetable soup. Guess what?
Fasolada.
Fasolada.
They
Greeks
call it,
invented
you know what they call it? Bob Chopra. Bob.
Bob's your uncle.
They said Bob's your uncle. Bob's your barba. Let's go. That's a kilo of haricot beans. They were dry beans. And then I put water, and they've absorbed some water, and they've actually puffed up. Then drain. Then you put them in a pot. Water, just this much above. Bring it to the boil. Drain, bring it back again, and now you'll see what we're going to do. And the reason is because these babies have things called oligosaccharides. Oh. And oligosaccharides are very, very difficult for us to process. So we just,
all right,
we'll put them in.
Fill her up with a bit of water.
You probably need to put more water in, ladies and gentlemen, during the cook, because it will evaporate and you will inevitably would need to add some more hot water as you're cooking. Okay. Now
amongst the ingredients.
Pretty simple. Onion, don't cut your veggies too small. They will disintegrate after an hour and a half of cooking. So there's onion and garlic in there. Not too much garlic. I would say for this amount, there would probably be four cloves.
Yeah.
And look how big the celery. Celery is a must. Cut them very, very large. If you don't, you'll lose it. As you can see, the carrots are diced rather chunky as well. Okay?
This is going to reduce. There's a fair bit of water here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put those in now and then bring it to a boil.
Parsley.
You put those in now, do you? So I'll put them a little bit later, but that's beautiful. Mate,
whenever you want.
Good. Okay. Now, we've got those in there. And what we're going to do, you can put the pepper now if you want to.
White pepper.
However, we're not going to salt it, season it with salt. We're going to do that towards the end. Because Nico,
you tell us.
Well, basically, if you put the salt in early into the beans, it will prevent them from being soft. So we're going to put this on. Putting the lid on is going to bring it to a boil a lot quicker as well, because the heat's not escaping.
This will take about plan for an hour and a half.
And then we'll also add our tomato paste.
Tomato paste, just the paste, about halfway through. So maybe at the 45-minute mark.
Yeah.
And your
oil. So what we're going to do is once these are in there,
but the oil about after about an hour. So last half an hour. and the salt near the end
That's it.
to taste.
Fasolada. It's ready.
Fasolada.
You can smell it. Now, with your fasolada, we have a few bits and pieces. Bread. Fresh bread, a must. Chili. If you like chili, which both of us love chili. I love our anchovies or sardines. Then olives, feta. I'm going to enjoy it now. Fasolada.
The celery makes it. If there's no celery, there's no fasolada.
The combo is perfect. Guys, fasolada. Enjoy it.
Both my grandmothers sewed. One of my favourite things that I have is my dad's mum's sewing box and my nonna's as well. And as a kid, I would always rummage through them. I would be around my nonna when she would sew, so I'd take scraps of fabric. I would go into Dad's shed and I would make mannequins out of scrap wood. That was around age 3, and it was just something that evolved from there, and sewing was something that I was passionate about, and I loved creating things. And my parents recognised that, thankfully, and supported me in going to art classes and sewing lessons. When I was 11, I made my first dress with my nonna's help. That was made for one of my best friends, and another friend saw it and they wanted one, so I made a slightly different version for her. And then I started making my friends school formal dresses, and they would get best dress at the school formal, so then all their friends wanted dresses. And when I was 12 was when I came up with the name for the label, Paolo Sebastian, because Paolo is just Paul and Sebastian's my middle name. Then when I was around 14, I was saying, you know, I really want to have a fashion show. I want to start my own label. It was the only thing that I wanted to do. So I did that in 2007, halfway through my year 12. And I remember going to the hall when we were planning it and thinking, I'm going to be an embarrassment. We're going to have maybe 100 people in this room. It's such a big space. It's going to look ridiculous. But we ended up having 660 people come to that show. We had a line up down the street and around the block, and a full page in the newspaper the next day. And that experience, putting together that show, is still one of my favourite memories and something that I hold so close, because it was really a community effort. Going from my parents' lounge room, using their floor as my cutting table, I saved up the money that I could from making wedding dresses, and I rented a small space, and then hired my first staff member, and then eventually hired another one, and slowly grew the team. And then we outgrew that building and we had to move to a bigger one. Then I started getting approached by people for red carpets in Adelaide, to red carpets in Sydney and Melbourne, for like Logies, to eventually LA. And we're doing things like the Oscars and the SAGs and all those red carpets.
The migrants that came to Australia during the 50s and 60s all worked hard to give their families a better life and greater opportunities. Without their hard work and determination to make a go of it here, we wouldn't have success stories like Paolo Sebastian.
As a child, I used to watch the Oscars and see these amazing actresses walk down the red carpets in these beautiful dresses, and now to think that my garments are placed on that same red carpet is an incredible experience and incredible feeling for myself and for the team. And to think that it's done out of Adelaide is a great feeling, because so many people said that it couldn't be done, and here we are doing it.